Trade Show Executive Talks with thought leaders in the exhibitions and events industry. For ongoing news about the top trade shows in the country, check out tradeshowexecutive.com. This is TSE Talks, produced by Trade Show Executive magazine. Now here's Editor-at-Large, Danica Tormolin.
Hi, Jeff. It's so good to talk to you today. First of all, when I was doing some background research, I was, of course, looking at your LinkedIn profile, and I didn't know that you had a law degree. How did you end up in the trade show industry? And also, how and when has your law degree maybe come in handy in your current role?
Sure. My background is definitely not what you typically hear from our industry, either in terms of what I did before this career path or even how I ended up in the industry. My earliest career ambition was actually to work in the film industry. I grew up in LA and was able to witness firsthand the glamour and excitement of Hollywood. And then my earliest mentor was an executive in the film industry, and he recommended I go to law school even though I really didn't want to practice law. He believed the education and thought process that you learn in law school would be helpful in business, even more so than business school. So my first internship in law school was working for a lawyer that was in the entertainment business, happened to be helping with a film project for one of her clients, and her client was actually Shaquille O'Neal's agent. And that internship was supposed to be very brief, like just a few weeks actually. And then after some odd circumstances and perfect timing of everything, suddenly given an opportunity to continue working for the agency, and that resulted in my becoming a sports agent straight out of law school. Our agency's clients included NFL players, coaches, broadcasters, a lot of who's who in the sports world, which gave me an incredible base to not only learn a trade craft in law, but also I got to manage multiple clients and their individual businesses. So that really did help in understanding business. And then during that time, I moved to Las Vegas. And soon after moving here, this is where it kind of gets odd, I started playing in a weekly home poker game with a bunch of guys my age and one older guy who was Chuck Schwartz. We played in this weekly poker game for a few years, and I became good friends with Chuck and Susan Schwartz. And then in 2006, I was getting married, and the direction I wanted to take in my life was changing. Being a sports agent in your 20s, I had a lot of fun, have a lot of great memories. But then I realized that when I was getting married and wanted to change my lifestyle, I realized, entertaining college football players wasn't really in line with what I wanted for my future. So I went to Chuck for advice, and one weekend I called him up, went over to his house, just figured I'd ask him since he's had, success in life and success here in Vegas. And unbeknownst to me, he and Susan actually were thinking of asking me to possibly join ConvExx as his successor. So it was really, perfect events coming together, except for the fact that I had never been to a trade show and didn't really know what a trade show was. So Chuck and Susan, they kind of believed that I had the skill set perfectly suited for the job based on how they saw me interact with my clients and how I did conduct my own business. And they also felt that they could teach me the trade show business themselves, and the rest is history. So that's how I got into the industry. And then when it comes to my law degree, it's nice to, be able to draft contracts, be able to understand what you can and can't do in particular situations. But really the skill set that's served me the best is really the logical reasoning and the analytical skills they teach you in law school. I think that serves me not only in helping our business, but also all of our clients and the shows that we serve.
Sure. For those who don't know, I did not know that story before. Tell us a little bit about Chuck and who he is, I guess, a little bit. That kind of leads into the next question, too, about some of the company. Maybe give us some insight into the company and Chuck and Susan's role with the company.
Sure. Well, Chuck and Susan have obviously been in the industry for a very long time. They believe in family. Family is very important to them. I think that's one of the reasons why we get along so well, because I'm the same way. They're passionate about family, but also the industry, the business of trade shows and events. So they've really instilled that in me as well. So we continue to operate really as a family business. Chuck really wants everyone in the family, and the definition of family is pretty loose because it's really the team that we put together to really love the industry and have passion for show business itself. So as I've really been working with Chuck and Susan and the ConvExx family, they've kind of blessed me with really participating as a member of the family. They kind of adopted me as their son and partner, which has been really nice, and it's developed a strong bond between us, and I think helps us drive ConvExx forward.
Great. Well, tell us a little bit about the ownership structure. It's a privately held company, correct?
Yeah, it was started. ConvExx itself was started in 2000, and it was created really by the Schwartzes and a couple other members of their family. And then when I joined in 2006, they have essentially welcomed me as a member of the family and I've progressively become really a partner, a true partner of theirs in the ownership of the business as well. But it is closely held, tightly held amongst us in the family.
Okay, great. And how many people work at ConvExx?
Right now, we're at 23 full-time employees, but we're growing right now, which is nice.
Great. What areas are you growing in? What positions are you looking to hire? I'm just curious.
Well, a lot of it is in customer service, people that are engaging people on the phone. One thing that we've found is we need to have more personal touch with really the people that come to the trade shows, whether it be on the exhibitor side or the attendee side. It's nice to have emails and communicate by mass quantities of emails and newsletters, but really the personal touch and actually phone calls and developing relationships with the constituents of our shows we're finding is helpful. So we're trying to expand on that front and also having everyone in our organization be actively on the phone.
Okay, well, tell us a little bit about the mix of consumer and trade shows in ConvExx's portfolio.
Sure. Well, while our core competency is trade shows, we've been fortunate to have the experience to conduct really all types of events, from small conferences to the largest of trade shows. Our current mix is 2 shows we manage for associations, the SHOT Show and Sweets and Snacks Expo, which both happen to be in the Gold 100. And then we also own 2 shows ourselves. Those shows include a trade event called Mobile Tech Expo, which has been conducted once a year in Orlando, and then also a consumer event, or as we like to call it, an enthusiast event, called Las Vegas Bike Fest, which is about to have its 19th event. But one constant among all these events is really, which makes our jobs fun, is that each show really serves a community in which the members of the community are very passionate about their industry. So it makes it kind of fun and a great assortment of events that we have on our docket right now.
Definitely. That kind of answers my question too about how many you own and manage. So two managed and 2 owned currently. Is that the full picture?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And then we also, like for a SHOT Show, we also help produce an exhibitor academy. We also assist them in some other events that they produce as well. But in terms of our clients, we have the National Shooting Sports Foundation and the National Confectioners Association.
So NSSF selected ConvExx to manage the SHOT Show in 2013, if I remember correctly. And I know the show has kind of grown and changed under your management. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. SHOT Show was already a tremendous show with great history when we started working with them in 2013. The passion of their industry from the exhibitors and the attendees, as well as the association, the board that supports them, lend itself to a really strong show. And we're simply stewards of the event, making sure we listen to their stakeholders and deliver what they need. But I think the success we've had over these last 5 years or so is really in part due to the partnership we have with NSSF in producing the show. During this time, they've taken a really active role in the production of the show, more so than they did before we were involved. And it's really the partnership that we've been working together on, I think helps. Chris Dolnack and I work really closely to make sure that not only do we continue to provide a well-run and attended show, but also paying attention to what the industry is looking for and trying to deliver something new each year to continue driving more professional attendance. We have the consumers that always want to come in, but our efforts are really on driving more professional attendance, and that's what we're always looking for. So whether it be expanded educational offerings, we've expanded to include more ancillary business segments important to the industry at large, as well as giving more personalized attention. They've all helped SHOT Show grow and become more relevant to the industry.
Yeah. And maybe step back a little bit. Tell us about when we talk about the management of the show. So what does that mean in terms of SHOT Show?
Sure. Really, it's making sure looking at the logistics of the show, making sure it runs, but also from a trade show perspective and taking off really our, I don't know the best way of saying this, but the association really needs to be focused, is their core mission is to focus on the advocacy for the industry that it serves, and not necessarily look to the production of the trade show. So for us, we look at it as try to take off as much of the responsibilities from the trade show operational standpoint and give the association the time and the effort to really focus on what their mission is, and that's advocating for their industry.
It includes logistics, but also sales and attendance, promotion and marketing. I mean, what's your role in that, I guess?
Sure. Well, that changes. Well, that doesn't really change all the time, but we're constantly evaluating how best we can serve. With respect to the SHOT Show, we do help out really on all facets. On sales, they do have an in-house sales team to drive additional revenues, whether it be through sponsorships, making sure the exhibitors are being served. But with that particular show, we leave the show each year pretty much fully booked for the following year. So it's more of making sure the exhibitors are being serviced, and exhibitor concierge program, which we've kind of expanded on for sweets and snacks this year, but we can talk about it a little bit. But for SHOT Show, it's just making sure the exhibitors are being taken care of. We have expanded it to try to include more exhibitors opportunities, given they have a wait list. And that's one of the programs that we've been working on with NSSF and as show management, looking for those opportunities, trying to create them, and then partner with NSSF to see how it best serves the marketplace.
Sure. That show is sold out and waitlisted, like you said, and it's been that way for a few years, huh?
Yeah, it's actually, when it moved into the Sands Expo Center in 2010, it had to pretty much shrink its footprint in order to fit in there. And so they actually had to cut back on the product segments that were allowed in. And so it's been a wait list ever since. A lot of exhibitors actually want more space. So we've had to control growth of the show in terms of the current participants, as well as we're limited of who can come in. So when we do have openings, we only allow in those companies that are core to the industry and to National Shooting Sports Foundation. Over the last several years, we've added additional events to really give more companies an opportunity, but we've done it in a way which, maximizes the utilization of the Venetian and the Sands, utilizing ballrooms more for exhibits.
Right. Something that we've talked about before and written about before, the pre-show events that you do.
Yeah, the supplier showcase.
Yeah.
And so that we now have 550 companies participating in. And then we also turned it over this past year overnight. So we had an additional 250 companies participate in tabletop during the second day of the show.
Wow. So over almost 800 companies participating in a 2-day pre-show event.
Yeah, we've basically used one ballroom. We've had over 800 new companies be able to participate in that one ballroom. And that takes place the day before the show, the first day of the show, and the second day of the show.
Great. Wow. That's impressive. And that's only a few years old, right?
Yeah, Supplier Showcase, I think we're going into our 4th year now. And then the other one-day event called Pop-Up Preview is going to its 2nd day. Yeah, so it's given a lot of companies a way to get into the show. And it's also given us a marketing tool to promote to attendees that there's something new this year and there's more products and new products coming in.
Okay, well, I want to ask you about, I know last September, you got a new client, the National Confectioners Association selected ConvExx to handle attendee and exhibitor services for its annual Sweets and Snacks Expo. Tell us a little bit about how this deal came about, and then maybe a little bit about your first show with them in May.
Sure. So NCA, they've been producing the show with their own staff since it began over 20 years ago. And they did an incredible job of building it up into what it is today, where, like I said, it's a Gold 100 show. However, they realized that their capabilities as trade show organizers were being stretched, and it was oftentimes taking them away from their core mission of advocating on behalf of the confectioners. So they conducted an extensive RFP process, and we were fortunate to be the last one standing. Initially, we took on just limited operational assistance for specific activities, and that was at their 2018 event. And then the partnership took on a much broader role for the show this past May. It said that we took on attendee and exhibitor services. And that's really in large part because we were talking with them when we first started trying to figure out the basis for the relationship and how we'd work together. We had two items that we thought we could help them the most and give them really provide an immediate impact. And that was on exhibitor and attendee services. The registration process and customer service for the attendees, and not only formulating the process, but adjusting it based on what the needs were, what the exhibitors have been communicating they wanted to see, as well as what attendees wanted to come. And then on the exhibitor side, really providing a concierge service, like I mentioned before, making sure the exhibitors not only knew how exactly to exhibit at the show, but make sure that they receive the best return on their investment, because that just translates to higher retention rates and happy exhibitors, which we all want to see.
Definitely. So when you talk about the concierge for exhibitors, what does that mean? Lay that kind of out, paint a picture for us of what that means.
Sure. So in the past, communications, you have the weekly or biweekly email newsletters that go to the show contact, making sure that you get all the messages out there for the upcoming show. But what we did was we basically took our entire team and gave each member of our team a group of exhibitors. So it was not necessarily a sales call, but we basically gave each exhibitor at Sweets and Snacks a dedicated person at our office that they can communicate with and contact if they have any questions whatsoever. And if that team member doesn't necessarily have the answer, they can get the answer for them and get back to them as quickly as possible. So it's basically, we've created, each member is a concierge to a group of exhibitors. Basically means we make phone calls out to them on a monthly basis, discuss with them or leave them a voicemail what is topical at the time, what we want to make sure we communicate to them, a reminder, just making sure that they have everything they need, recognizing that they won't always give you a phone call back or answer the phone, but it just keeps the show top of mind. Make sure that they should be thinking about the show year round and not just, those last 4 weeks before the show when they're scrambling to figure out their booth is being shipped on time and where they just repackage what they had in their booth the past year, which we see at shows all the time.
That's a great idea. So monthly calls to exhibitors. And how many exhibitors do they have total? And then how many do you kind of dedicate to each, one person on a team? How many can they handle?
We have about 800 exhibitors at Sweets and Snacks. We try to break it up to about 12 to 15 people. So there's not too many per person. They can develop a personal relationship and they'll remember the company. They've researched the company, understand what they're trying to sell, even sometimes give them advice. So it's not too many and it's not too hard for any one person to handle. Obviously, some people get more than others based on their job load.
Well, that's great. And when you were talking about, the deal coming about that you were on the list of RFPs, how do you think you guys ended up establishing that with NCA?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with our culture. We really try to immerse ourselves in the industries that our shows serve, become a family to the association, to our members, as well as the customer, and really try to get the customers to be family members to us. We get involved in the industry. When we started working with the SHOT Show and National Shooting Sports Foundation, we brought our entire team out to a shooting range and had them, try out the sport. A lot of them had never held a gun before, but we want to make sure everyone in our company was not only familiar with the industry, but they were also interested in what they produced and also sympathetic to the issues that they confront. So that's part of the reason why I think we were that last man standing, because we really dedicate ourselves to the shows. And we also, one of the other things that makes us a little bit different is that our entire team gets involved. We don't just dedicate a portion of our staff, but our entire team really becomes a part of the show.
For each of your clients?
Yep. Yes.
Yeah. I did notice that when I was doing some background research, that both NSFF and NCA mentioned your company culture as the reason why they selected your company. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, we're pretty proud of that.
So you're kind of family oriented and really involved in the industry is how you would describe Your culture.
Yes. Yeah, we really try to make everyone in their company knowledgeable about it and hopefully become passionate about what we're trying to do for the shows as well.
Great. What do you think is your biggest challenge as the leader of a, fairly small privately held business, but also the producer of two top 100 shows in the US?
I think I'm not alone saying this, but it really comes down to the people of the organization. At the end of the day, we're a service business. If we don't deliver great service, whether it be for our clients or the end users of the shows we produce, there really won't be continued success. So we're extremely fortunate to have key members of our team be long tenured and capable of taking on a variety of roles and responsibilities, which you need to do as a small business. You got to be nimble and take on multiple responsibilities, especially when you're producing shows as sizable as the ones we're handling. So finding a team that's capable of doing that and then keeping them in today's job market is really our biggest challenge, but one I think we've been successful in achieving.
And why do you think that is? What are some inside tips? How do you keep and retain that talent?
I think it's nice to say, but nice to have fun shows that really keep people excited every day. These shows, I mean, whether it be SHOT Show or Sweets and Snacks or our motorcycle rally or our Mobile Tech Expo, it serves a lot of people that really are passionate about the community, and it makes it fun. And I think that is unique in that we have that portfolio of shows that do that, and I think that has certainly helped us.
Good. I noticed also that in 2017, ConvExx acquired, you mentioned this earlier, the Mobile Tech Expo, and you're launching a new one on the West Coast for the West Coast market in Las Vegas this year. Tell us a little bit about the launch, because that's probably something different for you, right?
Yeah, well, it's something we're excited about. We did acquire Mobile Tech Expo in 2017, and it had been around for about 15 years, and it serves a really niche market. It's the automotive detailers and paintless dent repair technicians that work on your cars, but they work on the road and not in traditional garages. So it really is a niche market, but it has grown over time, and it has a dedicated group of individuals that meet in Orlando each January. But one thing that we did notice was that, just like most shows that take place on one side of the country, you don't necessarily get the people that travel from the other side. And we did do a lot of research, and we did find that there was a demand for a show to take place out west. There are other shows in the West Coast, namely in Vegas, but this one really, as long as it served the same industry and really was the same format, a lot of education was really narrowly focused. There's demand there, and so we're really excited about it, and it's going to take place in Las Vegas in September. So it's going really well, and we're excited about it.
What are your goals in terms of exhibitors and attendance? What are you kind of shooting for?
It's really a small event. So even if we can get, half the size of what takes place in Orlando, would be happy. We think that there's great growth opportunities as long as people out west are aware of the show. And that's one thing that we're trying to really overcome, because even though with the success the show's had over the first 15 years, it was done with really no marketing by the prior owner. This group doesn't have an SIC code. They work from their vehicles. It's not an established industry that really has a way to get in touch with everybody. So we think that as more and more people hear about us, we'll have great success on the West Coast as much as we will on the East Coast.
So is it on the attendee side that you're more challenged, or the exhibitor side, I guess, with this launch?
The attendee side. We have a core group of exhibitors that are already excited about adding a show out west. So we're not necessarily worried about having a large contingent of exhibitors out here. It's making sure that we have the attendee side, and we can educate them, and we can develop another really community, because that's really what they all talk about on the East Coast. It takes place in a hotel. They don't want to have it in a convention center. It's one of those kinds of shows that they want to hang out in a bar right outside the show floor, and they all stay in the same hotel. And that's the model that we're going to carry through to Vegas, because that's what these guys like.
When you're, trying to develop an attendee base in a different area of the country, and really build that up, I mean, what are some of the keys? What do you think is working in terms of that?
Phone calls. It comes back to that personal touch.
Okay.
We've actually built up a database just by going on Yelp and looking up Yelp reviews and companies that are on that platform. There is no database for it, as much as we all get those emails from companies that advertise email lists. We know one doesn't really exist for this particular segment. So we've actually built up a database just from going on Yelp, seeing who's out there in each market and making the phone calls. And we've actually seen that that's actually become a big driver of us adding to our potential attendee base, educating them about the process. And it's also helping us learn what people are looking for. So it's actually been a good way to survey our attendee base as well.
Sure, that's great. So you're really building that one literally from the ground up with nothing.
Yes, exactly.
So earlier this spring, I also noticed that the Las Vegas Bike Fest and Freeze Management announced a strategic partnership to co-produce the 2019 Vegas Bike Fest, the 19th annual Consumer Motorcycle Show. Tell us a little bit about this partnership and how it impacted the event.
Sure. So Las Vegas Bike Fest has been around for 18 years. The first event launched on September 11th, 2001. So you can imagine it's gone through some of its challenges. But over time, the audience for motorcycle rallies has changed. One, they've gotten older, and really everyone's trying to find that younger audience. So this partnership really came about because we're realizing the demographics we need to attract are shifting, and that's not necessarily that market we're trying to go after is not necessarily what our core is and what we in ConvExx are best suited for. So Freeze actually approached us, and they have significant experience and success in attracting the younger audience and producing festival type events that we hope will bring a broader reach to our event. So we believe our capabilities are well served together, and we hope to deliver a greater event for the enthusiasts coming to Las Vegas in October. And then it also benefits the vendors that take up the space. So this isn't new for us in terms of partnering with other companies if we think it serves the event well. And so far, it's looking like it's going to be a winner.
Great. So what are some of the things that you're going to do with them to attract that younger audience? What do you have planned?
Well, a lot of it is going to be coming down to how the music is structured and what really is going to draw in younger people. A lot of it's going to have to do with how the event is set up in terms of the look and feel, the marketing, who it's marketed to. They also have other events that they do that they can leverage their events to help with Las Vegas Bike Fest. And they also even do motorcycle racing as part of their programs. And so they're bringing one of their races to downtown Las Vegas, just a block away from where our rally takes place. So the combination of the motorcycle races, the music festival, and adding more events downtown Las Vegas will create more of the festival atmosphere that we hope to bring in younger people.
Great. So on that particular event, what is your demographic breakdown? Like, where are you at now? And maybe a little bit about how the younger demographic has increased in the percentage. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So we typically get really 70% of the attendants that come in are from out of town, from out of Las Vegas. Even though it's a consumer event, we get a lot of traffic that comes in from a lot of it from California, but really all over the world. We've had people travel to Las Vegas just because it's, everyone wants to do Vegas. And then if you're a motorcycle enthusiast, it's a great time to just piggyback on with a motorcycle event. So we have a lot of people traveling, but the demographics when it comes to motorcycle riders, and especially Harley Davidson riders, it's aging. Younger people are not necessarily looking to Harley Davidson, they're looking to different kinds of motorcycles. So we're basically changing the event. Harley riders don't necessarily want to see parts or riders from other kinds of motorcycles. So that's one of the challenges we've had. But Freeze has had success in combining the two, and that's bringing in the younger people, of finding ways to entertain both consumer segments, if that's the best way of saying it.
So that kind of brings me to another point. You have a bird's eye view working with a couple different clients that maybe some other association, show organizers may not see. What are some of the trends that you're seeing at your clients' events?
Sure. One thing that we have seen is the trends don't change too much. They don't differ too far amongst different industries. A lot of them face the same challenges. And one thing that we see constant throughout is that really attendees are becoming more sophisticated and expecting to receive more value for leaving their businesses and attending the shows. They're also looking for, more bite-sized portions of everything, whether it be information they're getting digitally or being able to stay in one place. They're looking for more value, but they also want to make sure that they, don't get overwhelmed in one particular area. So, more education, more networking, more access to what's new. That's all expected by attendees regardless of the industry.
Interesting. So that brings me to another good question here. So what are some of the new initiatives and offerings, that are focused towards attendees and value and education and networking that have been successful at your events in 2019 so far?
On the attendee side, I'd say more new, more of what's new. I think with the pop-up preview that we did at SHOT Show, that was really successful in giving them 250 new exhibitors all in one ballroom, just in tabletops. And that kind of goes towards that bite-sized portions as well. To give them all in one place, they can go all in one day, see 250 new exhibitors. That was tremendously successful, and it came back that's what they're looking for. They're looking for what's new and making it easy. From both an attendee standpoint as well as an exhibitor standpoint, that's something that we're looking at for the future as well.
Great. So that pop-up preview was one example. Can you think of anything else from any of even on the consumer side or from any of the other events that you've done this year? Anything else new initiative-wise or offerings?
I think for sweets and snacks, one of the things that we really offered them was more access to what's innovative. They have a great program called the Most Innovative New Product Awards, where the judges are 30 of the largest retailers of sweets and snacks in the country. Their market share is something like 90% of the market was covered by those judges. And so they spent time judging and tasting over 350 products to determine what they thought was most innovative. And I think it was about 10 different 10 different categories. And the feedback and the interest from the attendees to have that kind of data and influence really resonated, and the attendees really wanted to see what was happening there. They went to those booths as soon as they found out who the winners were.
Great. So was that a new that most innovative new products for sweets and snacks? Have they done that for a while?
They've done it for a couple of years, but we've expanded it quite a bit to make sure that all attendees were better aware of exactly what the program was. And as they better understand how the judging works and the influence of those judges, it's elevated the program quite a bit.
So you handle that whole process for them in terms of like working with the judges and promoting the program and the logistics of it?
Yeah. And we work closely with NCA. They have the relationships because of their membership and what they do. They have the relationship with the judges, but we help them in figuring out exactly how best to leverage it for the trade show.
Great. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, since you do a lot of management, maybe tell us a little bit about the RFP process for new show management contracts. And, how do you keep your sales pipeline flowing and still work on your, day-to-day business? How does that work for you?
Sure. Well, one lesson that I learned from my past career in representing athletes is really make sure you do a great job for your clients and focus on your existing clients. And the referral clients will come. If you're consistently out there looking for the next client, your existing clients will feel as though they are not the focus of your business. And I learned that quite a bit when I was representing athletes, and I believe it falls in line here too, and that's how we operate. We believe our work product speaks for itself, and it's really our greatest asset in marketing to ensure our sales pipeline keep flowing, and we've had success with that. So our partners recognize we do a great job, and opportunities arise. So We are in talks with some other opportunities, but nothing I can really discuss at this point in time. But certainly, if as long as you do a great job, they will come.
Great. So I was going to ask, are you currently working on any deals? And you are, perhaps.
Yeah. Yes.
Good. Well, I look forward to hearing about the outcome of that. You talked briefly about this when you mentioned NCA and also NSFF.
It's tough to say. It's a tongue twister.
I know it is. It is. So, in terms of them focusing on advocacy, and I think, there's the recent deal with the National Restaurant Association show too. So do you think that we'll see more associations selling or outsourcing management of their trade shows and events in the coming years?
Selfishly, I'd like to say yes and would welcome it. It's really a function of the leadership at the associations. If they feel as though the management of a show doesn't take away from their mission of advocacy. I believe having an independent management company really can serve an association well. Not only do we see what's happening in the market with other trade shows, because we focus on trade shows 365 days a year, but it also makes sure that the team that's inside the building can really focus on the advocacy and what they're really formed for. Making sure, obviously, you need to have, for most associations, the revenue is imperative for the success of the association. And we're always cognizant of that. We're always looking to make sure that the revenues are there to support the association. We're also looking to see how the show can also be best leveraged to benefit all the stakeholders of the industry and not just focus on the show itself. So I think it really depends on if you can get the right partner in there to help make sure that the association focuses on what it was meant to be, what it was formed for, but also make sure that the show doesn't lose focus for why it was initially started.
That makes sense. Did you say that were they managed in-house before you took over?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that would be an association going from owning it or managing it in-house to outsourcing it.
Right. Correct. And one of the ways in which this has worked is while they did manage it in-house, they didn't really it took people away from their core responsibilities to manage the show. And they weren't able to focus on the show all year round. So while they did give part of the responsibilities for producing the show to an independent company, they haven't let anyone go. It's actually given the people that are there the ability to really focus year-round on why they're there, whether it be for membership services, developing new programs, or better leveraging the media that take place at the show to help out their advocacy, both in the Beltway and throughout the country.
So when you look ahead to 2020, I know a lot of people are in the midst of budgeting right now. So I thought I'd ask you about, where you're planning to beef up your budgets and where you might be cutting back some budgets.
Well, in terms of beefing up the budgets, I mentioned it before, it's really giving people the personal touch and the feeling of specialness, more VIP experiences, more hand-holding, making both attendees and exhibitors feel as though we really do care about them, making sure they have a great event and a reason to be there. It's not necessarily about what you're giving them in terms of tangible goods. It's more of just feeling a specialness. A dedicated room, a dedicated concierge, those all help. And it doesn't necessarily have to be beefing up the budget big time, but it does just need to just show them that you do care about them and you want to listen to them, hearing what they want and delivering on that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's interesting to me to see before, even 5 years ago, everyone was talking about it's all about the attendee experience, and it finally is. I think has become that today for most shows. It really has come to the top of the list.
Yeah.
Of things that you need to be focused on.
Yep. Well, people can find information online for just about anything these days. So you got to make it the experience to drive them to come to your event.
And that in-person, face-to-face interaction that you can't replicate on digital.
Yep.
So What are some of your short and long-term strategies for growing your business and also growing your client shows?
Well, all of our strategies really focus on the customer and listening to what their needs are. We're fortunate as a small business that's tightly owned. All of our efforts can be focused on the shows we produce, both for ourselves and for our clients. So we don't have a parent company. We don't have an equity partner. We have to make sure we meet specific benchmarks. We just focus on the shows and our clients. So we're always looking to increase the value of our own business, of course, but every decision is really made with the shows we produce in mind. The exhibitor community, in particular, like a SHOT Show, they're looking for ways to expand. So we've done that really methodically. We're excited about in 2021, the Caesars Forum is opening up next door to the Sands. So we're going to be able to really give the SHOT Show community both indoor and outdoor experiences that we haven't been able to provide for the last 10 years, really, at the SHOT Show. So that we're excited about in terms of making sure our clients' shows grow, but it's measured, controlled. Sweets and Snacks is also landlocked and have a wait list, just like SHOT Show. It's another show that with that enviable position. So we're trying to do a controlled growth, not go too fast, but really listen to what the customers are looking for.
Great. Now I wanted to just talk to you about some kind of more fun facts and some shorter answers about maybe some more personal things.
Okay.
So I would like to know, what do you like to do when you're not working?
Well, really, it's and I've mentioned this before, but it's all about family for me. And really, my parents instilled this to me. My wife and my kids are my everything. So when I'm not working, it's really spending time with my family. My girls are now 11 and 9 years old. So I know I have very few years left where they actually want to hang out with their parents. So I'm taking advantage of it as much as possible.
That's great. And so in terms of your management style, how would you describe it?
Chuck really made this apparent when I came in, and I've carried through on this. It's really making sure you include everybody on the team. You empower them and you give them knowledge. We include our employees in on everything. We include them not just on their own responsibilities, but on what's happening throughout the show, throughout the business. The more knowledge we provide our team, the more we include them in the decision-making process, we feel that they become more vested in the process and its results. And also with that knowledge comes the ability to adapt to changes and empower them to run with projects that may be beyond their job description.
So empowerment and collaboration, really. Yeah. So what is one of the most memorable trade show experiences you've had since you joined the industry in 2006, you said, right?
Yeah, well, I've had a lot of them. And I've been fortunate in that my first athlete client was Shaquille O'Neal, and my first trade show client was SEMA. So I start big. And with SEMA, there was one time in particular, we started producing what they call the SEMA Cruise, which is the move out of the vehicles at the close of the show. And I remember the first time we ever did it, it actually happened to be one of those rare days where it was very cold and rainy on a Friday afternoon in Vegas. I had to stand out in the intersection in front of the convention center just to make sure everything went smoothly. And some cars got a little bit aggressive, and I actually jumped in front of a car that was getting too aggressive, and I was worried it would skid out in front of the crowds. And I realized that probably wasn't the smartest thing to do, and that's when I realized I may have been getting too passionate about this industry when I'm jumping in front of speeding cars in the middle of a parade.
That would be memorable for sure. What's the best piece of advice that you've received about work or your career?
My dad actually taught me something when I was a kid that carries through with me today. Whenever I was struggling with anything as a kid or was trying to solve a problem, he always just gave me the acronym KISS, K-I-S-S, standing for Keep It Simple, Stupid. And, I try to, I think about it all the time whenever I'm solving a problem in business or in life. I think I hear him in the back of my head saying, keep it simple, stupid.
Good advice. Good advice. What's one thing that most people don't know about you? that you want to share?
I love roller coasters. Faster, higher, crazier, the better.
Got it. Good. So what's the best roller coaster ride in your opinion?
Yeah, Six Flags Magic Mountain has a ton of them. But I remember I went skydiving once, and that will always be forever the greatest roller coaster I ever went on.
I bet.
Yeah.
So what is one of the strangest requests that you've ever had from an exhibitor or attendee? I'm sure you've had a few.
Yeah. Well, we've all had that request to, remove the column from your booth and see if you can cut down the column for their show. But just last year, I was actually asked to see if they can bring a grizzly bear into their booth for SHOT Show. And with, over 60,000 people in that hall, thought that was an interesting request. And we actually came pretty close to actually making it happen, but unfortunately we had to cancel it. But that would have been kind of fun to see the reaction of people walking on the aisles and seeing a grizzly bear walking up.
Yeah, I bet. So why was that? Did it not work out? Like, what was it? What was the reasoning there?
We had one particular insurance broker that wasn't so excited about the idea.
Got it. Okay.
But the Sands was all for it. NSSF was all for it. It was going to be a great attraction for an exhibitor, that's for sure.
Yeah. But you tried to grant it, and you try to. I'm sure you try to make most requests happen if you can.
Yeah.
Since there are so many of our readers that come to Las Vegas for shows and industry events, I thought I'd ask you as an insider, what are some of your favorite places in Vegas? If you were another show organizer coming to town, where would you recommend they go for sure?
Wow. There's a lot of great places in Vegas. The great thing about Vegas, it really has something for everybody. I love taking people out to Red Rock and doing something outdoors and getting people to realize there's so much more than the Strip. I went golfing with Chris Dolnack a couple months ago, and we went up to Mesquite, about an hour north of the city, and he even said it was the best golfing experience he'd ever had at a particular golf course up there. So there is just so much outside the Strip. On the Strip, you just can't beat what the hospitality is. I love, Delmonico's at the Venetian is really my favorite restaurant, but there's a setting for everybody, which is one of the reasons why I love living here and love producing shows here.
Great. Well, thank you. I didn't mean to put you on the spot there, but I thought I would ask. So thank you so much for your time today, Jeff. I really appreciate it, and I think our readers will really enjoy hearing all about your experience.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's an honor.
This has been TSE Talks, produced by Trade Show Executive Magazine.